What's going on, everybody? This Afro think tank. White man explains why white men are the way they are. And I think this guy does a great job in explaining, to people why European Americans act certain ways. I mean, there's a reason for it, right? White folks just don't wake up saying, yeah, I'm choosing violence today just for no reason, right? There's always a reason, right? If you look hard enough, you can find the answer to why to everything. And that is how you fix problems, is find the reason. You find the why, right? You look for why someone does something, right? And then you see if you can solve that why, right? And if you get to another why, you see if you can solve that other why. You always ask why so you can get to the root of the problem, because a lot of us, what we do is we react to the reaction to the reaction to the reaction, like a domino effect. You tip the first domino over and all the dominoes start to fall, but none of the dominoes other than the first one knows why it's tipping over and falling on the other one, right? But the reason why all of that is happening is because the first one decided to choose violence and tip over a domino, right? You got to get to the first domino and figure out what is that first domino and how can we fix that first domino in order to make it so we all can just stand up and be peaceful with the space necessary, all right, for us to be upright and perfect. All right, so without further ado, let's listen to this white man explain to us who are curious to why, not just reacting based off what they are doing now, but are really truly interested in the why, so that we can either avoid certain situations or see if we can facilitate fixing or changing that situation. Because we can ramble all day on the internet about this person doing that person doing that, but if there's no solutions, right? If there's no, because the thing is, we're all adults, right? For the most part, that's on here, right? And the thing is, we have a responsibility to leave a better world for our children. Therefore, we have a responsibility, as we are still functioning human beings, to leave a better future for our children. That's supposed to be the way it works. I mean, it ain't really working that way, because so far, ain't none of our goddamn granddaddies and great-granddaddies and great-great-granddaddies give them two shits, all right, about what it is, to leaving us nothing, all right? They've been busy trying to world conquer and dominate and survive dominators and all kind of weird shit. But now as we're stabilizing as a civilization, as people are becoming more smarter, more intelligent, more aware of how things works, we all need to start asking why and get down to that first domino so that we can make sure that shit don't fall, all right? Anyway, tell me what you guys think in the comment section. It's Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.
Okay, this is probably going to be a little bit of a long one. Hit the 2X. I'm going to talk about white men and why a lot of us end up the way that we are. I'm going to speak about it from the context of white Christian nationalism, what is basically what I grew up in. So first off, I grew up in a household where my dad whooped my ass a lot. My mom was very emotionally chaotic, unstable. And so from a very young age, we are taught as white men that authority is always right? So we're already starting to build the foundation of narcissism, right? Because I'm beating your ass because I love you. The parent cannot be wrong. This is their foundation for raising respectful little white boys. Can't go to mom and figure out how to regulate because she's either fucking mad or happy and not much in between. So then you learn to internalize your emotions and you kind of learn to turn that off, right? So then we have this foundation of a lack of emotional regulation because we cannot express ourselves. We cannot be contrary to what the rules are. So we have that narcissistic foundation. We have that violence foundation. And then we get reinforced through media, right? Who are all the good guys? Who's the standard? Growing up in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, generally it's the white man. You got white superheroes. You're taught, the cops are basically God's chosen. So cops can't do anything wrong. If they ever get pushed back, if they ever get somebody running for them, whatever, that person is at fault every single time. So then we step into the white evangelical church where authority again is reinforced through the lens of white supremacy, They're not going to say that explicitly, but that's the foundation of the white evangelical church. And then you get indoctrinated at a young age with this idea that I am nothing without God. You hear it in all the songs. You hear it in all the fucking sermons and all this shit. So again, you have this foundation of violence, narcissism. You enter in the white evangelical church, which is also narcissistic. You have this reinforcement of violent authority. And then you also have your identity is wrapped up in, again, a white supremacist structure under the church. A lot of white men grow up with no identity outside of what is essentially forced onto us. And then when you're in the church, you know, my parents had me go on missions trips to fucking Mexico, Haiti. And so this idea gets reinforced, this colonizer foundation, that communities outside of whiteness need me. It's reinforcement of whiteness is the standard. The white saviorism is implanted in your brain. And again, the church reinforces this over and over and over again. And then again, I've talked about this a lot in the white evangelical church. You have them preaching about how Christians are supposed to be in the world, not of the world. You're going to be hated because you're a follower of Christ, which reinforces the victim narrative while simultaneously reinforcing the narcissism. We pick up this duality of viewing ourselves, no identity, inherently narcissistic, while simultaneously being able to play the victim. And we see that playing out right now in a major way, right? White men, we have everything we could fucking ask for and more. And still, you see a massive outburst of white domestic terrorism. White men are the most dangerous population in America. For what? For what? So it's this idea that's reinforced from the Trump administration on down that somehow white men are the victims of these other communities outside of whiteness, which isn't fucking true. But if I'm the victim, if my parents are a victim of my behavior and their response is violence by beating our ass or emotional violence, that programming comes out of us as white men as well. So if I feel like I'm a victim of whatever made up fucking bullshit from a Klan goddamn government, then a response is I have to protect my rights by any means necessary. Bro, it's so fucking wild because we have all the rights, all the privilege, all the power as white men in this country. The patriarchy protects us. I said this yesterday, we are the main source of oppression in America. But our programming has us in this duality of being the victim and the perpetrator at the same time. We're not the victim, ever. I mean, I guess being a victim of our parents' violence when we're young and have no control over that. But outside of that, again, we have everything we want and we need. That's why it's so fucking crazy right now. Because straight white Christian men are the most protected in this country. And straight white men are the ones that are going to churches and schools and supermarkets and all this shit and shooting up the place. So it's this constant feeding into the foundation of the narcissist victim complex, which just breeds violence and gives white men the opportunity to justify what the fuck we carry out while simultaneously making it look like we need to be the saviors of all these other communities, while simultaneously making us think that we're the fucking standard based on how we were raised, based on how the news, the media portray white men, based on how a lot of people interact with us because they don't want the violent outbursts aimed at them. And so a lot of white men grow up emotionally and developmentally stunted. You got 30, 40, 50-year-old men with the emotional intelligence of a goddamn 7 or 8-year-old. And white men escape accountability at every turn, right? Because if I'm supposed to be the standard, which again, we are fed, that's fed into our foundation from very little. if I'm supposed to be the savior, if I can ultimately be the victim and the narcissist, there's nothing anybody can tell me or hold me accountable to, because it's all justified through the foundational principles that were set in our family, in the white evangelical church, in this false sense of patriotism, white Christian nationalism, which is just violence. So violence is constantly reinforced, no accountability, the ability to be the narcissist and the perceived victim at the same time. And this is all programmed into white little boys from a very, very young age. All the misogyny, all the homophobia, all the xenophobia, the way we see our dads treat and talk about women, the way we watch our dads treat and talk about, Black, indigenous communities of color, the xenophobia, like the list goes on. And still, somehow, white men will always figure out a way to victimize ourselves and carry out the most violence at the same fucking time. It's such a massive mind fuck. So I guess that's what I see.
Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! Free Sudan! Boycott diamonds and gold! We most definitely cannot forget about the people of Sudan.
Thanks for watching Afro Think Tank. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And follow me on Substack and Patreon for more content. Remember, it's Pan-Africanism or nothing.